While potential flooding is taking up much of farmers' attention right now, many of those same farmers are also dealing with a severe drought. This week in Louisiana Agriculture's Avery Davidson is now standing by with this week's in-studio guest to give us some insight into both of those weather extremes. Avery?
Mike, it's rather an odd time for farmers right now because not only are they concerned about floodwaters, many of them are still dealing with a very severe drought. Joining me now is WAFB Chief Meteorologist Jay Grymes. And Jay, I want to focus first on that lack of rainfall. There are some parts of the state that are still, what, about 10 inches behind in rain?
It's the drought really has developed into something rather remarkable. In fact, as you've seen, we've got places that are in what is rated as extreme or exceptional drought, something that doesn't even happen once a decade in some locations. So certainly the extent of the drought, particularly in the western half of the state, has been noteworthy, almost historical. And the sad thing is there's nothing in the offing that really says, okay, we're going to resolve that issue, at least that Mother Nature is going to deliver enough rain to really bring a quick end to that.
Yeah, I know that this weekend we're seeing a few sprinkles here and there. I think at most we're looking at, what, maybe 1.5 inches?
Could see 1 to 1.5 inches in the western and particularly the northwestern part of the state, which of course is very welcome, but that's certainly not enough to erase the drought. And in the eastern and southeastern part of the state, it looks like we're probably not really going to see enough to even so much as dent the drought.
Now, I know in speaking with you over the years that dry ground, even though it does need rain, it doesn't always absorb it very quickly. Let's go ahead and say the Army Corps of Engineers opens the Morganza spillway. We have these rains, we have faster runoff. What's the possibility of backflooding in some of the areas, say in Avoyelles and St. Landry parishes?
We're going to see some backwater in St. Landry Parish with the opening of the spillway, and want to remind some of those people that it could take days before that water shows up. There also, as that water goes down into the Atchafalaya Basin, hits Morgan City, that's when we're going to see backwater moving into places like Terrebonne, Assumption, even Iberville Parish. It's going to back up the other side of the levee, and that could take as much, the Corps is telling us that could take as much as 5, 7, maybe even 8 days. So for folks that think they may be in an area that's going to be impacted, don't just assume a day after the opening that, okay, my ground is dry, I'm going to be in the clear. This flood event that's going to develop in the lower half of the state is going to probably take upwards of 10 days before we see the peak water everywhere. And also in the northern part of the state along the Mississippi, we've also got parishes up there that are going to be dealing with backwater too. So we're looking at as much as 10% of the state impacted by floodwater and backwater from this Mississippi event.
And how many acres are we talking about, especially croplands? I know within the Morganza spillway there's about 15,000 acres of agricultural land there. Obviously you put backwater flooding into it. There's some significant acreage there.
We're talking about, in terms of total impacts in the state, as much as 3 million acres. Now, of course, not all of that is agricultural. Most of that is in the Atchafalaya Basin, but still the extent particularly into sugarcane country in South Louisiana and in some of the cotton and corn areas of the northeastern part of the state, it will be extensive and notable. And the other thing to keep in mind is there's a really good chance that if they don't slow the traffic on the Mississippi, they may even take it to a point where they stop transportation along the Mississippi. Now, the impacts there to agriculture are almost mind-boggling. We're talking about the potential, just in terms of river traffic, of billions of dollars of economic impact from this event.
Yeah, because right now we're in the middle of wheat harvest. I know a lot of folks are struggling right now to get their wheat out of the fields given the possible flood event.
Right.
If you stop the ships from coming, what's that going to do to the grain elevators?
Everything freezes, and nothing goes out the river, which means nothing makes it to market, essentially. And remember, that extends all the way up into the Midwest and the High Plains. So we're talking about potentially putting the handcuffs on the core of U.S. agriculture, not just Louisiana agriculture.
And Jay, we're glad that you're here to help guide us through it. He is Jay Grymes, Chief Meteorologist for WAFB. So Mike, it's not just a Louisiana issue. As things progress, this could be and is a national issue. Back to you.
Thanks, Avery.